people have a limited bandwidth, a limited capacity to keep things in their head. If everything lives in your head, you are losing time, losing freedom, losing capacity, losing clients, losing money. Like, you've got to get it out. You've got to get it out.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Customer, Your Success. My guest today is Jessica Millhiser, founder of JMills Consulting. Jessica works with service-based business owners who have outgrown the way their business runs. The ones who look successful from the outside, but are holding the whole operation together themselves behind the scenes. With nearly 20 years across operations, hospitality, and leadership, she rebuilds the structure a business needs so it can grow without the owner being the bottleneck. Her philosophy is simple: structure creates freedom. Today, we get into one of the places where this shows the most clearly: the client journey, and why the experience your customers feel is really a reflection of how your business is built. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hey, Gary, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm quite excited about this. So once again, I think what we're doing here is we've touched on this topic a few times, and we've certainly touched on the client journey, but we've talked a lot about how business owners are in their own way recently. And we're going to dive into that a little deeper and maybe a little bit more structured, shall we say, because you like that word. So let's get right to it, all right? So you work with owners whose businesses, probably look fine and they're doing okay, but it's kind of chaotic behind the scenes. And I think we've all kind of worked in places like that too. So your line that I want to start with is structure creates freedom. So before we dive into the client journey specifically, which is the goal of the show, what do most founders misunderstand about the relationship between structure and growth?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So, what I find is that structure kind of gets a bad rap, right? People think of structure and they think I'm in a box or it's really rigid and it feels confining. And what I want to do is I want to reframe how people think about structure. Structure actually does, not to like repeat it, but structure does create freedom. And I believe that it does that because what it does is it creates a foundation. It creates a blueprint. It creates the framework from which you can build and grow your business more successfully. And if you don't have structure in place, your business growth will look chaotic. It will kind of be all over the place. You won't have as much of a plan in place, and it will extremely limit your capacity for growth. So think of structure sort of like the guardrails. Here's all this stuff, it's in place, like the foundation of a house, right? You need that foundation in order to build and scale your business. So that's how I kind of look at it. And then if you have that structure in place, it frees up your time, it frees up your energy, it frees up your bandwidth so that you can think more creatively, think more strategically, and really make intentional progress towards whatever your goals are.
Yeah. And that's very well put, and a topic we have dived into before. So a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, and maybe you'll agree with me, they focus on the deliverable, not necessarily the experience around it. Maybe subconsciously a little bit they're thinking of the experience and never really intentionally thinking about it or strategically attacking it. So where do you think that instinct comes from, and what does it cost them when they're thinking that way?
Yeah, so how I like to kind of frame it is, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, your mindset traditionally is grow, 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 do, more, scale, 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 right? Like, it's all external factors, which, to be fair and to be clear, are all really important.
Mhm.
But if you don't have the internal structure built to sustain that, what's going to happen? What's going to actually happen to the business? And I find that people go external before they go internal, and it really needs to be flipped.
It needs to be flipped. Yeah. No, brilliant. So one of the things that you intentionally focus on is the client journey. And so what we wanted to get to is the way you think of the client journey, because you're very operationally focused. You're not a CX consultant, so to speak, but you are. So right,
Yes.
you're
Yes.
not just there to throw in NPS scores and all that fancy schmancy stuff. You really get into the nuts and bolts of the operation and its impact on the journey, which I think is great because that's kind of my background. So, can you walk us through basically your process and how you do it and how you think of that journey?
Yeah, 100%. So I love to think of the client journey twofold. On the back, there's the operational logistics, right? How the business actually functions, how clients logistically move through working with you. On the front side, you actually have the client facing experience. And this is a symbiotic relationship. They are moving in parallel. So anytime you make an operational change in the back, that is always going to impact how the client experiences your business and your work on the front. So I am encouraging people all the time to think about how their business operates through the lens of how they want the client to experience working with them. And so if I'm breaking it down a little bit further, I really focus on, well, tangentially kind of entry points, right? Like how do clients actually find you? But then more specifically, consultations, onboarding, deliverables, and then offboarding. And I kind of have different components in each of those spaces.
Awesome. So, can you take us through briefly through each one? So you start with actually how the client how they got there in the first place, and then onboarding, right?
Yes, exactly. So I think about entry points. Again, I'm not really like sales and marketing focused, but the entry points of how people find you is obviously important.
Hmm.
Is that referrals? Is that website? Is that socials? Is that networking? What does that look like? What are those entry buckets?
Hmm.
Then when they've gotten in your ether and let's say they want to move forward with you, you've got the consultation, right? Fit call, discovery call, like whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It's all the same thing, but it's a prospect's first experience to what working with you might look and feel like. So you want to break the consultation down into operational booking and ease of booking. You want to look at the intake form. You want to look at the actual call itself. And then you want to look at the follow up process. Then, depending on where they fall in that yes, no, maybe spectrum, that's going to move them into onboarding. If you're looking at onboarding, I like to think about it in terms of what information do you need to give them? What information do you need to collect from them? So it's a give and collect relationship to get them set up within your business. And then deliverables, we're looking at basically communications, expectations. I love to talk about the human component of the relationship here. So those kind of have little breakdowns of their own. And then offboarding, like what does your offboarding process look like? So that's kind of super high level, a breakdown of that.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you. That was great. But so I'm going to start at the end because I just think that's fascinating. I've said this over and over again, and I said it in my past lives and my corporate lives. People do not focus on offboarding enough. There's a tremendous amount of focus on onboarding, especially in the SaaS world, customer success. We've talked about that many a time on the show,
Mhm.
but no one talks about offboarding, and I think part of it is because who wants to talk about losing a client? But there could be a valid reason that isn't that you didn't do a good job or it's not a good product. There are multiple reasons, like a merger in my business. But so tell me more about offboarding and how you think of it, because most people don't want to think about it. You know what I mean? Oh, they're leaving. Too bad.
No, it's the reality of business. Like at
Right.
some point the relationship will end for whatever reason, right? It's just the nature of the game. So you always want to have some kind of process for how you offboard people. And logistically, you can take a look at your onboarding process and flip it, right? Like what do you need to remove yourself out of? What do you need to remove them from? Again, depending on how your business model is structured. So there's the operational logistics of actually separating the client from the business. In addition to that, you also want to think about okay, what happens to them now? Is there any information I want to collect from them now? For example, a referral, a testimonial, a review, some kind of communication around that. And then, do you have a follow up process? Depending again on your business model, like what makes sense? Do you want to check in 2 weeks, 30 days, 3 months, 6 months? Are they moving into like a past client email list? Like, what does that separation look like? And how do you potentially maintain some kind of relationship after the fact?
Yeah. And sometimes you need to, depending on what your business is. There could be follow-up items, there could be a follow-up report, there could be a tax reporting form, all sorts of good stuff, and you wanna leave that relationship with a positive tone.
Correct. Leave
Yeah,
the door open,
leave the
right?
door
Like for
open.
me, my in particular, I have a fair amount of boomerang clients. So I always want to make sure that I'm completing whatever the project or relationship is on a really positive note because I may see them again in the future for something else.
Yeah, because it depends on why they're leaving, and they still could be a potential referable client or
Exactly.
referenceable client.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you go into these businesses, tell us more about how you take that structure, right? And how do you find the gaps, the redundancies, or the places where the client is unclear, disconnected, or just swinging and missing, so to speak?
Yeah, I really love to comb through the entire process really methodically. So I
Mhm.
really start kind of as I walked it through earlier, entry point all the way through offboarding. And basically, what I'm doing is I'm asking clarifying questions all along the way. Hey, how do people book a call with you? Where is that located? What platform are you using? Hey, do you have an intake form? What kind of questions are on those? What's your follow-up process post consultation? Now let's walk through onboarding. Now let's walk through deliverables. So we're literally combing through every stage of this person's client experience from start to finish. And usually what we see is there are gaps or there are holes or there are things that I'm like, well, if you did that here, you don't really need it here. Or, hey, we're in the deliverables and this is where things are starting to get clunky. How can we mitigate some of that? Is that a consultation enhancement? Is that an onboarding clarification? Like, what needs to happen to make sure that the entire process is seamless? And as you come through it, things will appear and then we can tackle them right there and then.
And I think one of the things clearly you run into just from reading about your background and what you talk about, and even your pictures, documentation.
Yes.
So I think you had something next to your coffee. You got one of those little signs about if it's not documented. I forget what it says,
Oh,
but
yes.
w-
But did you document it?
but did you document it, right?
Yeah.
Because these are the things we're looking for when we're doing our artwork for the episode. I was doing that in advance, and I saw the picture.
Fun.
But
Yeah.
I'd assume a lot of these owners just keep the whole process in their darn heads, right? And that's something you run into. It's not documented, and oh, geez, now you got to document it. It-
Yes.
it-
Yeah. So it depends, right? Like some of these in my past experience, have been solopreneurs. So they're like, well, I don't really need to document it because it's just me.
yeah.
Or some of them are like starting to grow, starting to scale, or already have like several team members. And they're like, well, it's just all in my head. And I'm like, you can't grow or scale your business if everything lives in your head. Like, as tedious or as unfun as that kind of sounds, like that is how you grow your business, getting it out of your head onto paper as a resource so that you can repeat these processes consistently and reliably over time, whether it's you or whether you end up delegating in the future.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm just saying this as a podcast. So I've done that because I've got all these wonderful tools from Simona and team at Volt Production, but it's just me. And so if I had an editing team, there's all these, and I don't do it. And I've had to do it because I've had so much interest in being people being on the show. I've got to
Nice.
keep my guests straight when they're going to be on. Do we have the pre-call meeting to make sure we have a fit? When are we recording? And then when's that episode coming out? And if I don't do that and then put that down in a spreadsheet, it's all in my head. Oh, Jessica's
Yes.
going to be on in June, and well, maybe it will. It's a mess,
Yeah. I
and I'm
mean,
stressed out of my mind.
yes,
Right.
because everything lives up here
Yeah.
and there you have people have a limited bandwidth, a
Mm,
limited capacity to keep things in their head. So if you're constantly having to remember or try and be like, how did I do this process again? Or is so and so set up? Or where are they in their service delivery? Like if everything lives in your head, you are losing time, losing freedom, losing capacity, losing clients, losing money. Like you've got to get it out. You've got to
mm,
get it out.
yeah, and yeah, it is a huge difference just for something simple like doing this. So let's get more into the journey and how you make that memorable. You talk about memorable moments, and so how do you, get a moment in there? What separates that, moment from a nice gesture to a referral? How do you work that in that client journey process that you just described to us?
Totally. So really this mostly comes into play, I would say, in the onboarding process and in the delivery
Hmm.
process. This is sort of what I like to call the human component of the relationship. And really, I love to remind people that your clients are more than just your clients. Like your clients are humans with big, full, busy lives, aging parents. Maybe they've got kids. Maybe there's graduations. Maybe they're dealing with health concerns. Maybe they're launching books, like whatever. Everybody's lives are so big and full. And I really feel like it's our job to pay attention. How are we paying attention to like what's happening in their lives and how can we show up for them? And maybe that's an email. Maybe that's a text. Maybe that's a gift. Maybe that's just a conversation. It's like, hey, I was thinking about you. How's X going? Right? Like remembering that there's a human on the other side of that client relationship. So I would say that's a really big piece of it. And, thinking about, okay, you're working on the onboarding process. How can you go above and beyond? Maybe that's a handwritten card. Maybe depending on the tier that they buy in at, you send them some kind of gift. As you're moving through the relationship, again, depending on your business model and your budget for things, where along the way can you try to wow? Can you try to go above and beyond? Can you try to really enhance the experience in a customized way?
I think the spot you're looking for that wow is important because I've said all along, you can't always, everything can't be a wow experience depending on what you're doing. Your accounting statement needs to come on time. That's not wow. It
Correct.
should be very nice and very professional, but you've got to find those spots for the wow. I'm not saying, don't go for those moments, but you've really got to think about where you can make a difference. And it
Yes.
can be something as in boring and monotonous as the onboarding document or open some sort of opening package, a welcome letter handwritten with a handwritten note or a small gift or something like that.
Totally. And I think half the battle for client experience is just clear communication.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can be really clear, like people want to know, where have we been? Where are we now? Where are we going? And if you can clearly articulate that along the way, that is already going to put you above and beyond in terms
Mhm.
of other experiences.
Yeah, and just as an example, I'm having a issue with the house over here, and we've had a dishwasher overflow,
Oh,
and we need all the repairs. And the insurance company's been wonderful about just calling me, being kind, how you doing, and following up with me even when there's no follow up because there was a second error made where
mm,
the contractor had a plumber come in and made a mistake and caused the second flood in the
mhm.
kitchen. And now the estimate has to be redone. There's even more damage. But she just called today to say it's going to take a few days to get that second estimate out, and Friday's a holiday, so you might not hear from me till Monday. I want to make sure we're not just leaving you in a vacuum. We're still working on it due to that
Yes,
second complication. Wonderful. They're on it. I have nothing to worry about, right?
exactly. That's
Perfect.
huge.
Yeah.
That's exactly where, don't leave me hanging. Don't let
Don't
me
li-
guess where we're at, right? Like, where are we and what's next?
Yeah. And so hopefully the new dishwasher will be here soon. So
Yeah,
we're
fingers crossed.
not washing dishes by hand anymore. So all right. So let's get into everybody's favorite question, resistance, right? So that you've set a wonderful structure or a wonderful philosophy out there for us. Well, geez, why isn't everybody doing it? I'm sure there's resistance that you run into. So where does this resistance come from, do you think, and how do you deal with kind of breaking through that wall?
Yeah, that can be tricky.
Yeah, a
That
little
can be
bit.
tough
Yeah.
because here's like, how I kind of said earlier, like a lot of people are really focused on the external. I need clients, I need money, I need to network, I need to be on socials, whatever. The
Hmm.
external focus can really be a barrier to understanding the value and committing to creating that internal structure. So that's certainly something that I run up against occasionally. Probably more than occasionally, if I'm being totally honest. Um, but for like, I am never going to truthfully be able to convince anybody they have to be ready. They have to see it. They have to understand the value of that structure and what it will do for their business. I can talk on podcasts, I can write articles, I can share posts, I can network and speak about it all day long. But if the business owner is not ready to see that value in that piece, there's not a ton I can do there.
Right.
And I'll give you a perfect example. I actually have a client that I've been working with off and on in different capacities throughout the last few years. And she is in a place where I have been consistently like, we need to upgrade your operations. We need to shift how we're doing some things here. You really need to bring on more administrative help. And I've kind of been like squeaky wheel on this, and she just hasn't been ready, hasn't been ready, hasn't been ready.
Mm.
The last couple months, she has finally gotten to a place where she's like, Jess, I get it. I understand what you've been saying to me. I'm on board. And I'm like, thank God
the,
we've made it.
the light
Right?
shone through,
Yes.
the halo over your head has come out.
Because at a certain point, some people won't see the value in it until they're already in the thick of the chaos, until they're already growing too fast, until they already are like, oh my God, I need help. I'm drowning.
Yeah.
So sometimes they need to hit that in order to see the value in what the internal structure piece provides.
Yeah. And I'd assume sometimes there's a pretty strong warning signal or the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, a client that leaves or an employee that leaves, maybe.
Correct. That's a
Which,
huge flag.
right.
I'm
It's
working.
almost too late. I'm not gonna say it's too late. I mean, you need to get moving, but you waited too long at that point. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's you're past the place. And that's why I always try to get people when they're cusping, that growth spurt, because that's really when you can do some good, you can cover some real good ground, and you can actually get ahead of the growth spurt.
And yeah, and now if you're a solopreneur, you're driving yourself insane. But if you have employees, you're driving them crazy. So all this fits into the employee experience as well. So
Totally.
how do you weave that in there somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. And, what I would say about that is this really kind of relates to being the bottleneck in your business. And I find that some owners stay the bottleneck for a little while for a few different reasons, right? Some of them is just relinquishing control. Some of it is just, well, I feel like I'm still, working, I'm still doing good, I'm still being productive, whatever. But at the end of the day, if your employees, if your staff are still coming to you to make decisions, you are the bottleneck and you are stymieing your own capacity for growth. And so if you have the documented resources, if you're creating an experience for your staff included, you really want to empower them to make decisions, to have some autonomy, and creating the resources available, again, documentation and resource creation, that allows them to take the lead and take the initiative and stop having to come to you.
Yeah, and it's something where we talked a couple episodes about letting the founder or the business leader or owner step into their what we called she calls it, and I forget Anna's who the original author was, their zone of genius.
Correct. Yep.
Because she said a couple weeks ago, it's robbing the world of your zone of genius. You should be out there doing what you love and enjoy, and
Yes.
what made you build this business, not dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's.
Correct. You don't need to be doing all the things. You need to bring in people to do the things that you don't want to do.
Get people to do the things. And a lot of people will also pause on hiring somebody until they get to a level of revenue, which she
Sure.
said is a big mistake, right? Because you will increase your revenue by letting go of these things and getting out there and doing what you do.
Well, that's also like a time capacity thing, right, as well. And that's always going to be, I think, a hard place for business owners is when do I hire? When do I hire? When do I hire?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
always going to be a tricky space to be. And there's no, in my opinion, there's no clear cut answer. It's just if you know you're growing and you're on track to grow and you're no longer able to do all the things, it's time to start making moves on that, even if it's just a part-time person to start.
Yeah. And then once you start doing it and learn to delegate, they kind of, it's,
The world's your oyster, baby.
this is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
And I could use this person to do next. Now you got to hire the right person. That's always a challenge, but it could be
Yes,
very liberating. So great.
exactly.
So you've done all this wonderful process. You've shown your zone of genius to the world and to your clients. but if given it's a team, well, if even if a solopreneur, you should do this. What does the rhythm look like of kind of review and adjustment? Because Annie, we've talked about journey mapping before and all that. It should always be a process, right? Because you've got to do the things you do that you just rolled out, but then you've got to review and go back and adjust, or else, as Dave Seaton says, a journey map is just an art project.
Are you talking more about like strategic planning and stuff
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The journey you just mapped out, and the plan you've mapped out, you've got to keep going and looking at how you're doing it, how you're implementing, and how your client journey is evolving.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
would say this is something, I mean, you're probably going to come up against things real time like, oh, we've been doing it this way, but that doesn't seem to be working. Let's try this way. So there should be sort of a natural organic development of real time pivots.
Mhm.
But at minimum, I would say every 6 or 12 months, you should be kind of taking a look. What are we doing? What's working? Where are the gaps? Where can we improve? And it's an ongoing evolution of, are we in a really good place? Are people really happy? Or are there tweaks or pivots that we can make that would further enhance the experience? Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you stick around for that, or do you come back? Is that
It
some a part of your
depends. It
service? Yeah.
depends. Yeah. Like usually the client journey work is what I would call one of my projects. So it's a scope of work, it's a project. We're working for a few to a several months together, depending on the
Mhm.
client. And at that point, they're kind of on their way and I just touch back in every once in a while. But if they're like, "Hey, let's do a reconnect, let's do a revamp," I'm always happy to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I think that's a wise thing to do, and something that would be a great value.
Because you never want to let things be stagnant. You never want to get like complacent. And if you're doing the work or if you have team doing the work, you always want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, which is sort of the beauty of documentation and real-time check-ins. Like sometimes here's the documentation, but sometimes here's how people are actually doing the work.
Yeah.
And are they synced properly? And
Gotcha.
does one or the other need to be updated accordingly?
Yeah, that's true. Because you put the document there, right? But that's what I'm saying. It becomes just an art project that sits in the corner if you're not continuously using it, reviewing it, and looking at it. But I think that's
Absolutely.
somewhere someone like you can add a great deal of value. Just having the third party in there
Yes.
to one be a second set of eyes, an external set of eyes, but also you're working with so many different clients. You could share your best practices and what you see working out there and give them new, fresh ideas. So I think that'd be a great idea.
100%. And the beauty of the work I do is I get to see inside a lot of people's businesses,
Yeah.
platforms they're using, ways they're going about things, all of that. So that's actually really cool and allows me to provide more insight into best practices, as you said. That's great.
Yeah. So we've got time for one more question in the traditional interview part of the show. For a
Okay.
founder listening out there right now who knows that it's being held together by them and them alone, they're hanging on too much, where do you tell them to start this week?
Okay. This could go two different directions. Direction number one is make a list of all the things you don't want to do, don't like to do, don't have capacity to do. Those are the things that you can start working on documentation for and potentially delegate first. That could be an avenue. Avenue number two is taking a look at your client journey, really breaking it down into what's my consultation process, what's my onboarding process, what are my deliverables, do I have an offboarding process? And really break each of those sections down and determine what's working well and where are there gaps, and then kind of slowly chipping away at improving that experience as a whole.
Yeah, brilliant. Awesome. Great place to start. You've got a lot of places to go with it. I love your approach.
Thank you.
Great first segment of the show, but it's time to hit these segments and let's move to Does It Hold Water? All right, everybody, it is time for Does It Hold Water, my favorite segment. This is where I ask our guests to be our resident expert witness for the day. I read them a quote, a piece of thought leadership, and they tell me whether or not it holds water. You ready, Jessica?
I sure am.
I like to combine a couple of worlds here. So we're going to combine your hospitality world. So the quote comes from a book, The Heart of Hospitality.
Mm.
And given what you just told us about documentation and how important that is, this I felt was a very interesting one. And it is the things that matter can't be scripted.
Ooh, That's
does
a
the
good one.
yeah.
I feel like to an extent, definitely. Definitely. And kind of coming back to what I said earlier, the structure that you create, and that can include documentation, obviously, that's your framework. That's your foundation, which then allows you the capacity and the freedom and the creativity to enhance experiences, to create more magical moments. So I think it does hold water because I don't ever want people to feel like structure boxes them in.
Mm,
I actually want them to feel like structure gives them the freedom they deserve and desire to live their best life, grow their best business. You know what I mean?
yeah. And no, brilliant. And do what they do best. It goes into what we just said, living in the zone of each. Now, this is the I think the guy whose quote this is was the founder of the Four Seasons. So
Mm,
restaurants are it's a little different. Depends. An accounting firm or a tax firm is a lot different than a
totally.
restaurant. And so you're trying to create those experiences at restaurants. And there's been a lot of talk on this show recently about the different books, unreasonable hospitality, all that kind of
Yep.
stuff lately. And I just thought this fit perfectly for you because you do have to document things, but that gives you the structure to create those moments. Because without the structure, you're not going to create wow moments. You're going to create chaos, and
Yes,
there ain't no wow moments coming in your way.
you're going to be too busy in the day to day, in the actual operations, in the
Mm,
chaos, in putting out fires. If you don't have that structure in place,
mhm.
that's what that does for you. But if you do have that structure, it eliminates all of that chaos.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it says the things that matter. Well, lots of things matter. I think everything you're doing is pretty much going to matter. But the spirit of it is brilliant. But I think we covered that well.
Would you mind repeating it one more time?
The things that matter can't be scripted.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Yeah, no,
I'm a
it's good.
fan.
Yeah. No, I thought that would be a good one for you, and it sure was. Awesome.
Thank you.
Let's move to chip shots. All right, everybody, it is time for chip shots. These are my shorter form questions, more personal, but still professional in nature. So, we love the book question, Jessica. What is one book that has significantly influenced your professional or personal life, and how did it impact you?
Okay, I'm going to say two. Number one is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I love it because it really she talks about creativity as an entity. She talks about creativity and inspiration as something that is looking for someone to bring it to life. And if you don't grasp it, if you don't capture it or take action on it, it'll skip you by and go to the next person to bring it to life.
Hmm.
So I thought that that was a really cool take on creativity and inspiration and really taking action when you're inspired and motivated.
Yeah.
And then Code of Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani was great. Really interesting. Basically, just don't live in a box, break the rules, call BS on things. Like, don't be afraid to expand and try and experiment. And it was great. So, both of those books I really, really liked a lot.
All right, you get two. That's fine because our
Okay.
world record is I think 9.
Oh my God.
So I
Okay. I
think
feel
Chris,
good.
he might have given us 10. I don't remember. It's on the best of episode. I counted them off. Chris Waters, ding. I put a little bell
Funny.
in there. But brilliant. I don't know either of those, so that is awesome. I love it when it's new and different and something I
Yeah,
can look into myself. Awesome. Thank you.
absolutely.
All right. The leader question. I love this one. If you could spend the day shadowing a current leader in any profession, any industry, who would it be and what would you hope to learn?
It's a tough question because there's a lot of cool people out there.
Mm-hmm.
But the first person that really comes to mind is Sarah Blakely. She's the owner of Spanx. She's the owner of Sneaks, and she's a badass female businesswoman. And she also seems like a really good human. So I would love to shadow her. I think that would be epic.
Yeah, I think I got very early in this podcast. I got Sarah before, but
Yes.
what sneaks? Then it's obviously sneakers. But
Yes, but they're
what's the
high
spin?
heel sneakers that are actually comfortable.
What
Yeah.
high heeled sneakers, and they're actually comfortable.
Yes, apparently. I looked them up. They're like $500. I was like, that
She
might
is a
be like
great.
a little bit.
If she can sell high-heeled sneakers for $500 a pop, she is a great
Oh, I
salesperson.
ran into a woman that was wearing them a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, those are so cute." And she was like, "Yeah, they're sneaks." And I was like, "Oh God."
Wow.
On my wish list, maybe.
$500 a pop. God, go for it. All right. Awesome. That was a great one. All right. This one's had some great responses over the episodes. Is there a particular experience or failure early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson you still use today?
So, what I will say, it's not necessarily career related,
Mm,
but it's personal development related. So, I
yeah.
was living in DC. I'm not going to go into details about why I moved, but it was a very impromptu, spontaneous need to get out of DC.
Mm,
And I ended up moving to Los Angeles. Within 30 days, I made the decision in 24 hours and I was gone in 30 days. And really, that was such a pivotal moment in my life because it completely changed the trajectory of where I was headed and what my life looked like and what I was going to be capable of doing.
mm,
And it reminded me the importance of having awareness around opportunities that are presented, whether they're presented by people, whether they're presented by the universe, whatever, but just having an awareness around opportunities that are presented and being brave enough to say yes, even when they're scary.
yeah. Oh, brilliant. And you've been all over the place a bit because you're originally from Vermont, right?
Yep. Vermont,
And
DC, LA, and now I'm in Denver.
okay, so you're working your way back. So you kind of went down and
Maybe.
around.
Yes. I'm just
So
circling around, really.
okay. All right. Be careful out there in Illinois or somewhere, I don't know, in the middle because you haven't hit that yet. So awesome. All right. So final question. This is a good one for you. What is the one question that you ask clients that never fails to deliver?
Yes, I actually have 2 that I wanna share. One is how do
Mhm.
you define success?
Yeah.
Because I wanna know what success actually looks like to them
Mm,
and how are they defining it because everybody has a very different version of success. And number 2 is what do you want your business to look like in 6 to 12 months?
mm.
Because that helps me understand their expectations, the reality of maybe those expectations, and the sense of urgency with which they're trying to make moves. So those 2 questions really give me a lot of insight into them.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Because you get your caption the short term and the long term. Because
Correct.
what state are you in? What do you need to do immediately? And then what are you really trying to do in the end?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Brilliant. Jessica, great guest. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, jmillsconsulting.com is my website. Would love for you to check it out. I'm also super active on LinkedIn as Jessica Millhiser. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what your client experience looks like. And really happy to be here. Thank you so much. Would love to chat.
Yeah. Thank you again for being such a great guest. This is a very useful and on target episode. And I thank you all for watching Your Customer Your Success. And like I say, if you're watching on the video, don't forget there's the audio on all major platforms. And if you're listening on the audio, don't forget the video's out there on YouTube. So check it all out. And I got shorts and all sorts of good stuff. I will be back with more CX leaders, customer success leaders, entrepreneurs, and all sorts of good stuff for you real soon. That's all for today. Bye for now. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you found something insightful that will enhance your experiences and drive your success. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts to help us improve the show. Don't forget to head on over to marracxhub.com for more ways to connect with me and learn more about experience management. Until next time, I'm Gary Marra, working hard for your customer and your success.